It's the summer of 1975. San Francisco police had been called to a golf course just off the coast, but they weren't there to admire the ocean. Some passerbys had just noticed a dead body. It was a man. His pants were unzipped. The body had already decomposed, and there were maggots in his face. This was the last known victim of the uncaught, roaming free serial killer called the Doodler. In this video, we'll talk about the horrendous crimes committed by this serial killer and how he managed to escape the grasp of the San Francisco Police Department. It was the mid-1970s in San Francisco, a city alive with freedom, art, and identity. But beneath that vibrant surface, a killer was on the loose. He became known as the Doodler, a name as eerie as his method. Before killing his victims, he would draw them, sketching their faces in quiet moments. Before stabbing them to death. Between January 1974 and September 1975, at least 6 men were murdered, possibly as many as 16, and 3 others barely survived his attacks. The victims were all white men, found stabbed in eerily similar ways, deep wounds to the chest and back. Each death began the same way, a chance meeting at a gay bar.
San Francisco police announced a 6-figure reward and revealed new clues today in the hope of solving murders committed in the 1970s. Investigators shared an age progression sketch of the man they believe may be a murderer nicknamed the Doodler. A police artist based the newer image on a sketch first produced in 1975. You're about to hear a call to police reporting one of the Doodler's victims being found at Ocean Beach. This was in 1974.
Yes, I believe there might be a dead person on the beach right across from Ulloa Street.
All right, here's another look at the sketch from the mid-1970s. The Doodler targeted gay men, and police believe he may have killed at least 5 people. A $100,000 reward is now being offered for clues in this cold case.
A shared conversation, maybe even a sketch. Then, the night would end in horror. The suspect was described as a young black man, between 19 and 25, slender, around 6 feet tall. Police believed he lured his victims to secluded spots near where their bodies would later be found. A charming artist by day, and a cold-blooded killer by night. The Doodler had turned the city's search for love and acceptance into a hunt for survival. It was 1:57 a.m., January 27, 1974. The wind off the Pacific was cold, the surf crashing against the dark sand of Ocean Beach in San Francisco. A police patrol's headlights cut across the shoreline, and there, at the edge of the water, lay a man's body. He was face up, fully clothed, the tide creeping closer with every wave. The man had been stabbed several times, the blade striking with violent precision. But this victim had fought back. Defensive wounds on his hands told the story of a desperate struggle. A man fighting for his life against a killer who showed no mercy. For a time, authorities had no idea who he was. The body was logged by the medical examiner as John Doe No. 7. Days later, he would be identified as 49-year-old Gerald Earl Kavanaugh, a Canadian-American immigrant who'd come to San Francisco seeking a new life. Instead, he became the first known victim of a killer who would soon come to be known by a chilling name, the Doodler. Just 5 months after Gerald Kavanaugh's body was found on Ocean Beach, San Francisco would awaken to another murder. It was the morning of June 25, 1974. The sun had barely risen when a woman walking near Spreckles Lake stumbled upon something in the grass. The body of 27-year-old Joseph J. Stevens. Jay had been a beloved figure in the city's nightlife, a comedian and a drag queen who lit up the clubs of San Francisco's Tenderloin district. Friends remembered him as kind, confident, and endlessly charismatic. The night before his death, he'd been seen performing and laughing among friends. By morning, he was gone. Investigators determined Jay had likely been alive when he arrived at the lake, possibly lured there by his killer. The attack was sudden and brutal, echoing the same violence seen months earlier on Ocean Beach. Now, it was clear to detectives, this was no random act. The city had a predator stalking its nightlife, someone who gained his victims' trust, only to turn their final moments into terror. Barely 2 weeks after the murder of Joseph J. Stevens, the Doodler struck again. It was July 7, 1974. Another quiet Sunday morning on San Francisco's Ocean Beach. A woman walking her dog noticed something unusual in the sand. When she got closer, she saw a man's body lying near the shoreline. 31-year-old Klaus Chrisman had been stabbed repeatedly, far more savagely than the victims before him. Deep wounds covered his body, and his throat had been slashed again and again. Just like Gerald Kavanaugh, Klaus was fully clothed. But the brutality of the attack told investigators that this killing was fueled by rage. Chrisman was a German immigrant, a husband, and a father. Yet when police searched his body, they found something that made them pause: a small makeup tube in his pocket. It led detectives to wonder if Klaus had been living a secret life, one that may have made him the Doodler's next target. For days, he remained unidentified, just another nameless victim found on the city's edge. But to investigators, one thing was now certain: the killings were connected. The Doodler had a pattern, and he wasn't done. By the spring of 1975, San Francisco's fear had turned into quiet dread. The killings had stopped for months, but the city knew better. The Doodler wasn't finished. On May 12, 1975, the body of 32-year-old Frederick Elmer Capon was found in the dunes of San Francisco. Like the others, he had been stabbed repeatedly, his killer's blade piercing his aorta. Disturbances in the sand told a grim story. Frederick's body had been dragged nearly 20 feet from where he'd fallen. Capon was a nurse, a Navy veteran, and a decorated Vietnam War hero. A man who had saved lives, only to have his own taken with calculated cruelty. Just weeks later, the Doodler would claim his final known victim. On June 4, 1975, a hiker in Lincoln Park came across a gruesome discovery: the decomposed body of 66-year-old Harold Goldberg, a Swedish immigrant who had likely been dead for 2 weeks. Goldberg's death stood apart from the others. He was much older, his pants unzipped, his underwear missing, but the signature violence was unmistakable. Another man silenced, another secret buried. For a time, he was known only as John Doe number 81. And just like that, the Doodler vanished. No witnesses, no arrests, no closure. Only 6 dead men, 3 survivors too terrified to speak, and a city left haunted by a killer who drew before he destroyed. In the months following the death of Harold Goldberg, police finally went public. The San Francisco Police Department released a sketch: a young black man, late teens to early 20s, slim, quiet, and often seen wearing a Navy-style cap. Inspector Rotia Guilford, one of the city's first black homicide detectives, led the investigation. He told reporters that the suspect was known to sit alone in bars, sketching caricatures and cartoons on napkins, the same quiet ritual that would earn him his chilling name, the Doodler. But outside police headquarters, few seemed to notice. The case struggled for headlines. The Zodiac Killer was still front-page news, and the city was gripped by another nightmare: the Zebra Murders, a string of racially charged killings terrorizing San Francisco. Within the gay community, whispers grew louder. Some believed the Doodler's victims were being forgotten, dismissed because of who they were and where they came from. If these had been high society women from Pacific Heights, one man recalled, the city would have been in an uproar. But investigators like Moses, a crime lab technician, pushed back. "Baloney," he said. "No case was ever ignored. Not this one. Not any of them." Still, the Doodler kept his silence. And San Francisco, distracted, divided, and afraid, began to move on, leaving a trail of unanswered questions in his wake. In January of 1976, nearly 2 years after the killings began, the San Francisco Chronicle ran a story that reignited the city's fear, and just 2 days later, police made an arrest. The suspect was picked up outside a bar in the Tenderloin district after a patron called in, saying a man matching the Doodler's sketch had been offering to draw portraits of customers. When police confronted him, he was carrying a butcher knife and a book full of sketches. Inside the interrogation room, detectives questioned him for hours. Sources at the time claimed the man had even confessed the murders to a psychiatrist. "He's having difficulty with his sexuality," lead investigator Rotia Guilford told reporters. "He's probably ashamed of what he's doing." Homosexuality has never been accepted in the Black community. The guilt makes him want to erase his acts. It was a theory that reflected both the mindset and the bias of the time. However, one thing was clear. Police had their suspect, a young man who fit the description, a man the surviving victims recognized and feared. Detectives questioned him extensively. He cooperated, but he never confessed. And without testimony, the case collapsed. 3 men had survived the Doodler's attacks, one of them a well-known entertainer, another a foreign diplomat, but none of them would testify. Coming forward would have meant revealing their identities as gay men in a time when that truth could end careers, destroy families, or worse. So, the suspect walked free. No conviction, no justice. Only quiet certainty among investigators that they had found their killer, and an unspoken agreement that the price of silence had been too high. They were gay men in 1970s San Francisco, a time when being outed could destroy your life. As one headline read, "Murder Suspect Free Because Gays Silent." Even Harvey Milk, then an emerging voice for gay rights, defended their choice. "I understand," he said. "Society has made it impossible for them to come forward." And he was right. Homosexuality had only just been decriminalized in California that same year. Discrimination in jobs, housing, and law enforcement was rampant. Many in the gay community still feared the police as much as the predators who hunted them. The Doodler's suspect walked free. No trial, no conviction, no justice. Decades later, most of the officers and witnesses tied to the case are gone, including Inspector Guilford, who passed in 1998. But investigators like Dan Cunningham, who inherited the case, still believe the key may lie in the evidence left behind. "The DNA is going to be important," he said. "A lot will depend on what the crime lab finds." It's been nearly 50 years since the Doodler last struck. The sketch artist who turned murder into art has never been identified. And San Francisco still waits for his final signature, the truth. The man suspected of being the Doodler was never named publicly. He was never tried, never convicted, and never seen again. Decades passed. Files gathered dust. Witnesses died. But the mystery endured. Today, nearly 50 years later, the Doodler case remains open, one of San Francisco's most haunting unsolved crimes. Advances in DNA technology have given new hope. In February 2019, the San Francisco Police Department offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the killer's arrest and released an updated age-progressed sketch of what the Doodler might look like today. Investigators have even considered using the same forensic genealogy techniques that unmasked the Golden State Killer. Somewhere out there, the Doodler's identity may still exist, hidden in a strand of DNA, a forgotten witness, or a name lost to time. The sketch remains unfinished. And San Francisco is still waiting for the final line. What do you think of the Doodler? Do you believe police ignored this case because of the sexuality of its victims? Hopefully, authorities will be able to close this case for good and provide closure to the families of the Doodler's victims. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more of such true crime content in the future. Until next time.